Are you home yarn? Oh, probably not. It is hard. Would be wonderful. I have South Carolina, you know, all that, but we're raised right. Yours is a little. Maybe it was no, maybe they changed it. We're just gonna interchange it like I did that. Oh, I think this might have been the only one available. I don't know. I didn't have it. Oh, everything. We've got hey, I was raised Catholic, believe you. No. Good. Yeah. Might be rid of oil. Here.
Yeah.
I mean, right now,
You can go to the back.
Okay. Oh, wow. I think I can have that. If you need to oil, yes. I need to take yes. Just oh, that's my first mistake was that any other stitches were that same. It was just simply oh, okay. I have actually how far down. Okay, it's got little lines on it. You see those lines? And that gives you where your tension. You can go back to the same spot if you need to. Mine's almost as loose as it can go. Yours is so tight that it's not even on the lines. It's not even registering on the line. I know. That's my guess. You are probably right. Yeah. Yep. Oh. Right. So you're on it's something be upside down. I have a screen underneath. Yes, you have a screen underneath.
So the screen, that is the screen. Is that okay? You want it closer?
No, that's good. That's good for now.
Just let me know if you need any adjustments or anything.
Okay, we'll work our way through things. Okay, if everybody can be quiet. I want to welcome you all and thank you for coming. I'm sure you'll have a really good time here at the Crank In. I will be teaching this class. I'm Deb Oswald. I will be here all weekend. So if you're extreme beginners and you're still struggling, please feel free to search me out. Okay, I'll be downstairs. I'll be trying to knit on my machine. It doesn't always work. So get off helping people. But do please stop and ask me more questions if you need to. Okay, we are going to go through the very beginning to the very end. We are going to actually go through making a sock, but covering a lot of things you will use in just about anything you knit. Okay, so our first stop is a setup bonnet. Does everybody have one of these setup bonnets? Okay, so we're going to take our setup bonnet, and if you've never used it, it looks like you got a hill and a valley. You're going to go in the valley and pick up a strand of yarn. Okay, so you're just going to set it inside the cylinder, and we are going to just pick up the yarn. And you're going to hang it on every other needle. All the way around. Now you're only going to be able to go so far, and then your needles are going to be down where you can't get to them. So when you reach that point, I want you to stop, and I'll give you a quick show here on what to do at that point. Okay, is everybody there? Am I rushing you a little? Are we close enough? Do we have enough people that are done and to that point? Okay. So what's going to happen when I crank this? I have no yarn in there. So what's going to happen? We're going to drop it off. So you're going to take some waste yarn. When it comes to yarn, I prefer to have my yarn on the floor. Okay. That way, if there's any pull or a tight spot where you ball wound it and there's a little goofy spot, it doesn't affect my knitting as badly as if I had it setting right here on top of my table. Okay. So we're going to take that and you're going to thread your machine. I am assuming everyone knows how to thread their machine. Is that a correct assumption?
It's been a while, so can we review?
We sure can. All right. So I'm going to take my yarn and put it in one of the two back feeders. Okay. We're then going to go under the little hook here. We are going to then go off to the right and come in through the post. And then we will go under from the left. We're going underneath our little uptake. Now at this point, you can test this. If you lift that up, it should stop feeding your yarn. If it does not, you did it wrong.
Lift what up?
Your yarn.
No, lift this wire up. No. Oh,
You're going to lift the yarn up. The wire should come up and stop the yarn from feeding. Okay?
Want to go back through, come up through the hole, then.
Okay, so you're through the post. Oh, there. All right, you're going to go forward and go under the little hook there. And then go off to the right and go into the little post. Okay. And then you're going to go to the left and go under the hook. Not your take-up hook. Okay, where's Anita or Vicky? Oh, they're over here still. Okay. Okay, for the rest of you, you're just going to take it then and go down through the front loop, and then you're going to put it into your yarn carrier, your yarn feeder. And then pull a little length to drop into. Okay. So now we also know that machines do not knit without weights on them. And the reasoning behind that is your needles are straight up and down. So when they just go straight up and down, the stitches won't come off. Okay. So if you put weight on there, the weight is then pulling the stitches off. Now I will tell you 90% of the people I know out there are using way too much weight. When I knit, this is what I use, at this alone. When you put 6-8 pounds on there, your needles are going up and they're trying to fold in. The weight, it's too much weight. The needles are trying to fall in. So if you put less weight on, one, it will be easier to crank. And two, your needles won't be working to tip in. You may have to loosen your tension a little bit, but that's what works. Some machines, especially the older ones, need one more small weight, not a big weight, one small weight added to it. And that's just the quirk of the older machines. Okay? So you're going to, I have no weight. I really can't put that weight on because it won't pull correctly. So I'm going to put my hand underneath here and grab my bonnet. And I am going to just knit part way around. Okay? All right. My needles are up where I can load them with the bat from the bonnet. So that's what I'm going to do, is finish loading it up.
Oh, I know, right? I think you just laid out in the car.
All right. Once you have your bonnet all the way on, take your weight and hang it on there. Now I have little key rings on mine because it's easy to take it on and off. If you don't have that, you're going to have to go with a buckle. So how many have the little ring on theirs? And have to go straight to a buckle. There are a couple different kinds of buckles out there. This style is what comes with the older machines. This is a new style that's out there. It was created by Fred Hulk. He's no longer with us, but there's plenty of people making these. So what you have to do with this style is you're going to slide, twist it like a so, and then you'll hang your weight on this bottom part, and it does the job of a buckle. All right, there's a right and a wrong way to put a buckle on. So if you're putting a buckle on, you want it so it drops away from you, and you're going to come from the bottom up. See how I'm coming up from the bottom? Then when you close it and pull on it, it should stay there. If you do it the wrong way, when you pull, it will just slide. Okay? Before you put your weights on, make sure you have it the right way, or your weights are going to fall on the floor. Okay? So everybody get your weights on. And then I want you to crank 10 or 15 rounds. I want to make sure your tension's right and all that stuff. Make sure we're knitting. We didn't miss any needles. Okay, when you have 10 or 15 rounds on, does anybody have a mistake or an error section? All right. For those of you out in TV land, I'm going to move away and come back for a minute. Okay,
Their first stitch didn't catch.
okay, what's happening? No. You have 2 needles knitting as 1 stitch. The problem for that is you take the yarn off of the 1 needle and then keep knitting. It should. If you take that, take it off. All right. Make sure your needles are open. Now crank it again. And you are knitting a little tiny.
I am. I go right, I can never remember right or left. That's way too tight.
You're going to turn it, to force it down, you turn it clockwise.
So down means longer stitches.
Correct.
This throws me every time.
Yeah, I did about 3. That might.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
I know.
All right. One, you're knitting way too tight, so let's solve that problem first. You are going down clockwise. We're going to down.
Oh, beautiful.
There you go, side down, and it might get hard for the first time around, maybe the two, so you might want to get a little bit more. Don't be afraid to get this stuff. Okay. Okay, as long as you're getting somewhere, you can't do anything, you move that around and then try and pick one. Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. All right. So take yarn off of one of them and continue knitting. Everybody else okay? All right, got everybody on the straight and narrow? Way back there. Okay, one more time. I gotta run.
Lower and longer. But if it's oh my goodness, I was a mess. I was going in the wrong direction.
Oh, you were?
Well, that would be bad because every time she says so right, I feel but there's actually one time the extension was made. And I was, can I see how your tension ended up? So it is, and I'll grab my whole yes, so much more. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's so good. I don't have ready. I am gonna have to pay attention. Okay, yes, I know exactly. And she said mine was too tight. So yeah, I was too tight.
Okay, we're gonna move on. There's a couple people still need a little help. I have a couple more helpers coming up. And so because I want to keep moving on, we want to get everything taken care of. So the next thing is you always set up with waste yarn. So now we have to change colors. Okay, so you are going to change colors. Okay, I have another color here to work with. And again, can't thread it through all here, can I? I have yarn in there already. So I'm going to snip the yarn. And then thread just like I did before. Put it through a back loop.
How long do you want the string snipped? Where do you snip it?
Where you snip it, I usually snip it between the yarn carrier and the top of that, just somewhere in the middle or towards the top. It doesn't matter. You want to leave a 3, 4, 5 inch, and we're going to drop it inside the cylinder. So you're going to back up. You are going to lay your yarn over 2 needles and put it down in the cylinder. Okay, that's my waste yarn. Everybody got it that way and got your yarn threaded? We are now going to get it all threaded. And we are again going to put yarn and we are going to go across, and where we overlapped 2 needles with our waste yarn, we're going to overlap the same 2 needles with our project yarn. So you're going to lay them in and across these 2 needles again. And I put my finger there to hold the threads in place. And then I start cranking. Once I'm past that point and they have knit, I take it off and I can knit. And once you got it on there, I want you to knit 20 rounds. And when you knit your 20 rounds, you want to stop a distance from where you did your color change. Now, when I do color change, I like to start and stop at the same point. So I use one of my halfway markers as my stop and start place. All right, is everybody making progress here? Okay, I'm going to sneak away one more time.
Mistakes already. Well, no, I was going the wrong way, and I was laying the yarn the wrong direction. That's why I was going the wrong way. Well, you have to bring the yarn. You're bringing the yarn back.
All right, I'm back. So how many have their 20 rounds on? We got enough to show the next part? Okay. We're going to hang a hem. And part of this can be for knitting, anything. Sometimes I hang a hem to do wrist warmers. I can hang a hem for a sock. So we are actually going to try and make a sock. So we're doing a hung hem sock. Generally, I do 20 rounds and then I hang a hem. So what you're going to do is take your weight off and carefully lift up till you can see your waist yarn. And if you look at that, you will see you have a single green line on mine, which is my waist yarn. And I have a single line of my yarn I am using for my sock. Okay? You are going to pick up the single line that is your sock color. Now, if you started and stopped in the same spot where your two little tag yarns are from changing colors, you're going to pick the first one up and we're going to hang it on the first needle next to the mark. And you will continue picking up the single line all the way around. Okay, does everybody see where you're picking up?
Every stitch?
Yes, you must hang every stitch. Yeah, it'll take you a bit. And again, you can only hang so far, and then we have to crank our handle.
So the first stitch after your waist yarn tail is the one you start with.
Correct, correct.
Yeah, I don't know how to get that one. And that's why you stop.
I can't really see the yarn.
Okay, how far is everybody? Are you close to where you?
I have an inch on.
Okay, we'll wait a few minutes and give you a chance to catch up.
It's gonna take a long time. Yeah, but you need to. Oh, yeah. Right. It can't be me. I had to just like my first one. I'm kind of guessing if it's the white or pink cardigan. It's just okay. I did start in the right spot, but if I go back to the right spot, I might go off. You know what? I don't think it's going to matter that much. As long as you get more, you'll have a twist, I think. This is tricky. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to do this. Well, it's easy to do when you're running. You are 100% cast on. Cast on, Step. Yeah. I was running around my secondary yard. So, what's the purpose of we're doing yarn? Because all I'm doing as we're telling you. So, this year, we're creating my on cap. Okay. Which can be up to top of the top, wrist warmers. Okay, so basically, we're making this portion of the shirt. Okay, that's rib. We are doing non-rib. Okay. Sound good?
All right, I'm gonna move on here. If you haven't caught up yet, so I have no weights on here, but I now need to move my carrier. Okay, so I am going to pull down on this pocket that's here and knit around so I can get at more of my needles. Now this part again has no weight on it, so I'm going to pull on my bonnet because that's where I got doubled up stitches, and we're just going to crank part way around. Now I can hang the rest of these because my needles are up and out of the cylinder.
Finish hanging.
Yep, once you get it around, finish hanging.
Okay. Now you gotta move them needles. Shoot, I just lost my needles. You lost the section. Oh, sugar. Hold on, not yet. Oh, I love that sugar bit. Good. Okay. Good. Did you want me to put my light on it for you? Oh, I just moved it in the direction, the right direction. Because remember, I'm thinking backwards. I'm right-handed, but I'm thinking backwards. So everyone thinks like, no, that's wrong. So I have to think wrong is right. There you go. Is wrong. I know how that is.
Okay, so once you have all your stitches hung, you're going to put the weights back on. And then you can knit again. Okay, I'm going to have you knit 30 rounds. Okay? And when you're on number 30, I want you to stop in the center of the front of the machine. Okay? For me, the front of the machine is the part of the machine that is facing me.
Not ready for the roses. You're doing good though. Okay. I certainly am not ready for roses. That's bluster on mine. You can say 30 rounds. All I know. I got mine last year. Okay, I don't know. See, my people like this, okay. I don't know. I just been borrowed tables. All right. Get this back on.
You want to say hi to Instagram?
Where am I at?
You want to say?
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I'm actually good with that.
Okay, I think we got enough people to that point where they're ready to go to the next step. Yep, Vicki right here in front. All right, so now we're to the point we're going to make a heel. Okay, lots to talk about on a heel. So you have halfway marks on your cylinder. You are going to lift up all the needles behind those marks. So there are many ways to shape a heel. I am teaching you my way. I would prefer everyone does it my way, so we all stay on the same page, okay? I know some are trying the 2 up, 1 down and all that, and they're all great heels. But for today, we're going to do the simplest heel out there. So I want you to do it my way, so we're all on the same page and all making the same mistakes and so on and so forth, okay? So once you have those needles lifted up, finish knitting around and put your yarn carrier in the back. Okay, everybody to that point? So now we have a couple things to do here at this point. You need to put your heel uptake on. Okay, so stick that guy on there. That's the little wire that comes out. You're gonna hook it on to your yarn in front of all the stuff you threaded. Okay? So now we're going to, there's lots of discussion of lift a needle, don't lift a needle. Okay? I lift the first one up.
Right or left?
On the right, the same side that your yarn and your yarn carrier are on. Okay? So 90% of the time, getting a hole is caused by a needle knitting more rows than the one next to it. Okay? That's what causes holes. So if you forget to lift one or if you forget to push one down, you're going to have more rows on the needle next to it and you're going to have a hole. So we're going to work hard to try and prevent the holes. So if you lift up the first one right away, this becomes ingrained in your mind. Lift one up, knit across. Lift one up, knit across. Lift one up, knit across. Okay? So you are going to it just makes for a good repetition and you don't have to think that hard. Okay? So once I do that, I will come back across and knit. Now the purpose of the uptake, and hopefully everybody's is working right. If I do not Okay, Panic City. What are we gonna do? I will tell you, this is not panic. All you have to do is what I call hand knit those couple of stitches. So I push the needle out so I can get in behind it. And then you're just gonna lift it up and over and knit that stitch, okay? Okay, so I fixed my stitches. And now on the left side, you're gonna lift up the needle and knit back. Now you should be able to knit 2 rounds and not have to put heel forks or anything on, okay? Get into the third. I can push this until it's close to halfway done. But I want you to learn how to place heel forks or whatever heel hold down device you have, okay?
I have a question going back to the first, after we lifted up the first needle. I'm confused about where we knit to.
You lift up the first needle, your carriage is on the right, you're gonna knit it over to the left.
Stop at the raised needle.
And you're gonna go past the raised, you're gonna go into the middle of the raised needles. You wanna knit that whole half.
And then stop kind of like at 7 o'clock.
You're gonna stop back in the, close to the 12 o'clock position.
12 o'clock is over here.
Correct.
Oh, okay, all right, I think I got it, okay.
Nope, is that the right way? Okay, are you on, your yarn is on the left? All right, let me check.
Something's wrong with my weight, but I'll figure that out later.
Okay. Oh, not you, but you get the collective. I think I'm supposed to be going backwards. That's my favorite.
There's your yarn,
Okay, so as I go to try to put the bonnet on, I'm losing stitches. Just trying to get the bonnet on.
Okay, so that is why, so yeah, you start, you can't put, so you can't put, okay, you don't want these yarns in the middle. You can't put the whole bonnet on at one time. So you do part of it and then now hang the rest of the
No,
day.
it's right.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, great, thank you. That's fair. I will be behind.
That's all right. That's all right.
All right, thank you.
I think I used this. Yep, so you want to hand knit that one.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the process. We're gonna lift up the needle and you're going to knit back and forth. All right, so we're gonna talk about heel hold downs. Okay, those of you with older machines have a heel hold down like this. Okay, everybody see it? There's been a little discussion online about this, and everybody's like, you're supposed to hang weights on it. I'm sorry, no, you're not. I hate to burst bubbles. This is meant, even in the manuals, it shows pictures of how to use this. You set it in here and you push on it with your fingers. Okay? See how I'm pushing on this with my fingers? So that's how this is used. I will tell you, this is what I always use, because 30 some years ago when I first started, that's all that was available. Okay. So the second thing that was available were the V heel hold downs like this. And a lot of people have these. What you do to use this, you take your stitches you're working on, you divide it into thirds. And you can just eyeball this. It doesn't have to be, super, super precise. All right, so I'm going to take that. I'm going to go up inside the fabric. And you're going to hang it about 1 inch to 2 inches down from the top. Okay, and they should try and get them across from each other. Now these were designed, some of them came with an extra set of weights, some did not. So I will tell you that I got these from Dave Kettman was making them singles, and I would put it on my V-hook like that, and then put it up here, my 1.5 to 2 inches down, and hang it on, and I could knit back and forth. You do have to, when you're decreasing, you do have to move your V-hook and pinch it in so that it's covering, because once it gets underneath the needles that are up, it is no longer doing anything. Okay, so, and last but not least, we have the heel forks. Okay, everybody probably has these heel forks. So I will tell you, I see more people using these wrong. So I'm going to tell you the right way. Okay. Most people put them up here at the very, very top. So if I do that, I'm right there at the top. Now, when I pull on that, what's it pulling on? 4 or 5 needles right here. Nothing over here has any weight on it. Okay, so when I walk around a room and I see 5 heel forks hung on here, I just shake my head. Wrong, wrong, wrong. So then I feel the need to tell them the right way. So if I catch you doing that, I will definitely stop and tell you the right way. Okay, you need to hang these down 1.5 inches, 2 inches. So if I do that, and now I pull on it, can you see it's pulling all of these? All right. And I will tell you, generally I only use 2 heel forks if I'm using heel forks. Okay. So if you're going to use this, you should not need more than 3. Never ever should you need more than 3. They should all be equally spaced and down about 1.5 inches to 2 inches so that they're covering a big area. Okay. Everybody understand the concept on that? Okay, so we are going to do, I'm going to use my heel hold down that I normally use. I do use the heel forks when I'm all done with my heel to put it in there and pull on the pocket so I can keep knitting. Okay. So we'll move all these guys. So I am going to use my heel hold down. And I just equally space it. And I lift up my needle and I'm going to crank it around and I'm just going to push on these. Now you don't have to push a whole bunch. Sorry. You don't have to push really hard or a whole bunch. Just enough to make it work. I can't stress that enough. Only put on enough to make it work. So then I'm going to knit back across. So whether you have your heel forks on, or you use this heel hold down, or you use the V-hook, you want to use the least amount of weights possible. Okay? Now, the reason we want to lift the needle on the side that the yarn is on is because we're getting what's called an automatic wrap. And that wrap is what prevents holds also. So you want to make sure you're going back and forth. Okay, why are you not working? Right. Okay, so you're going to go back and forth like this until you have whatever number of needles you need for your cylinder. When in doubt, we tell people to divide it into thirds. A third goes up, a third goes up, and the middle third is the ones that are down. So on a 60 needle cylinder, 10 is what you want to go down to. Some people like to only go down to 12. Personal choice call jumps in on making socks. Okay? The different kinds of yarn jump in on making socks. I can't write a pattern for a sock and guarantee you if you just grab some yarn and do the same sock, there's no guarantee they'll be the same size, even if we're using the same cylinder, because maybe your yarn is a little heavier than mine, or maybe mine's a little heavier than yours. Okay? So you need to judge that, how many rounds you need or how many whatever, how many stitches in your heel.
I'm stuck. So I stop it, however. This is a mess. Okay, I'm gonna do it. Right, because we went home. We went to. Yep. It's a mess, yes. Okay, so I stopped with 12 meters.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2 more. Okay, I have mine down to where I need it. Is anybody else to that point? We got a couple people. Anybody else over here? Nope, they're all still working. All right, so you two can keep going. I will explain what to do. We have done all our decreasing. We are now going to increase, okay? To increase, there's many ways. Some people like to push down on the side the yarn is on. There's a more likelihood of dropping stitches if you do that, though I find it way, way easier to knit the heel if I push down opposite side from where my yarn and my yarn carrier are. One, it's generally a tight stitch, so you have momentum going to work your way through that instead of coming up and I have a tight stitch and it doesn't want to knit, okay? So I am pushing down on the opposite side, and then you're going to knit back.
So you finished on your left side, but your first needle.
No, I finish on my right. Because of how I start, to get my 10 needles in the middle here, I finished on the right.
Did you start on the right too?
Yep. Yep. Okay, and now when pushing your needles down, you also don't want to slam them down like that, because you see what happens? Your latch practically closes. You want to leave it up and just push it down till that latch touches the yarn, okay? And knit across. So just put it far enough down that the latch touches the yarn and it doesn't close.
Yeah. My machine is broken.
All right, so if you want to keep working on your heel, I will come around a little bit too and see how things are going. So for those of you on the live, you'll have to keep practicing at home until I come back. Okay.
I was just starting on the heel. It's a abbreviated version. I didn't do all the stitches because I didn't want you to hear the same one. So now I've got my arm here, so I'll go ahead and take the heel section. See, what happened is I was wearing opposite, and so everything's backwards now. So at the tail end, I will tell you that. You're gonna have a whole bunch of fruit coming in. It does. So, yeah, so you obviously get to lift up those needles, but that's okay. Not yet, that's what I'm asking you. How long? Well, you did it once. Once they get in the gears, you cannot.
Is that slightly?
So there, this is what I get here. We're not. Do what you see. Okay, so you're going to finish with this. And one of the nice things. Right here. So all you're going to do is take this. Oh, okay. So time. Oh, yes. Okay. So you make sure this so that you're away from the stop. So there you go. I want to get done. Okay, okay, feel that. I'm just trying to go around. Yeah, I know it's kind of, but I'm hitting something and I'm trying to get it. Okay. So you just have to make sure. Oh, it's not, it's not going up your eyes and then so. See what this is. Oh, yeah, that's right. So I wouldn't even that over. I started yeah. I have to write it down. Lucy gave it right. Right, that's what I do. Okay, got it. Thank you.
No, it's okay. I can get back on it.
I wish I could help you, but it's like a sinking man. That's all right. Tomorrow we're better at each other. Today we're just trying to serve it like this. I know.
It's easier.
There's a question for you on the live. Can Deb discuss the pros and cons of lowering one needle opposite side, lifting one needle up curved side, and lowering to opposite side? Does one make a tighter seam? If you just want people here, then you can take your choice.
Now my will check because
Right, it was that one. Maybe if I make them out of white, I can I have to go step by step. I don't know why some people just go wing. Yes. So is your machine back there? Okay, a question came up on the internet about lifting one needle on the side that the yarn is on to get your wrap stitch and pushing two down on the opposite side. I don't have a problem with that. It's more thinking, and if you're a beginner, it's not what I would consider something I would do. I would stick to just lifting one, pushing one. Okay. There are so many ways to shape a heel, and we could discuss them all, but we would be here all day. So for right now, we're just doing it my way. But there is no problem with lifting up and pushing down two on the other side. There's not a problem with that. If that's the type of heel you want to do, okay? Right now we're doing one of the simplest heels out there. So we are gonna work our way through that and learn that one first. After you can do a heel with no drop stitches, then try some of the other ones, because there are some really cool ones out there that really help with rounding things and making some of the things look a little better in some people's eyes, not everyone's. But right now we just want to get a nice looking heel, so we're going to stick to what I have. Okay, I hope that answers the person's question. And I'm going to wander out there again. We'll be back.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Everybody to stop when you have one needle left to push down. So let me zip along here and get myself to that point.
the ones going in, and now I'm going out. This is my one coming in. After I do this, you're gonna push down opposite your yard. All right, so first I'm gonna.
Okay, for you, those of you who are to this point, we've gone all the way back down to our mark. Now, in order to avoid a hole, because this one needle has a couple of rows on it that the needle behind it that's up and non-working doesn't have. So if I just knit back and push everybody down, you're going to run into, there's a hole here, okay? And on heels, we don't like our holes. So you're going to manually wrap. You're going to take the yarn tail and put it around that needle that's up and out of work, okay? And then you're going to knit halfway back, and we are going to push all our needles down. And then we're going to knit carefully and take our heel spring off when we reach our halfway point here. And really check, double check. I can't say to check enough. Make sure your latches are open. All right, so I'm to where I can do my foot. So I am going to hang my heel fork so I have weight there and I don't have to hold it myself. And I'm going to knit the length of my foot, okay? Now there's many charts out there for dealing with this. My favorite way to measure, because it doesn't matter if my stitch gauge changes or row gauge changes, a measuring stick is a surefire way. It's going to be the same every time, okay? You can buy them with marks on them already, okay? I have a women and a men's side. You can just get a wooden ruler. You can get a piece of dowel. And what you do is you measure the person's foot, okay? If you're knitting for profit, you're knitting a ton of socks, you want just your average generic length, you would use these, okay? I'm not sure who else sells these sticks online. I know Jenny Dieters does, and I'm not sure who else does, but, you know, just search around on the internet, you'll find them somewhere. If you want to just, if you're like me and you're just knitting for personal stuff, you measure their foot by putting this down at your heel. And then when you're there, you measure, you put your mark where the toes start. Okay? You put a little mark on here. See, I have my little mark for me. And that's where my toes start. Because you're knitting a toe that's going to go up and over the rest of those. Okay, does that make sense to everyone? Okay, so for our practice sock, I want you to knit like 40 rounds, okay? And then we're gonna then stop in the front. We're gonna shape and talk about a toe. So basically at this point, you're knitting a tube. It's a tube. It's all just tubes with a little stencil, okay? You guys are doing okay? I didn't do the wheel because it was going too fast. I've done it at home. I have to have step by step. Okay. Like rack goes down here. I have step by step, right? Okay. So, oh, I will. Oh, great, I will. Let's try and get it. Oh, yeah. You did already? All right.
bring your yarn carrier back to the year. I live in Wisconsin.
Yeah. How are we doing here?
Which one, Lucy? That's the, I'm gonna give up on the
Half always.
You're gonna put all of these.
That's why I said
Yeah,
6
that's
o'clock.
this exactly how it's where you're gonna put the clock when you mark stuff. Because it is 60 or something. Nothing else, just count up and see if you got 36 needles.
I was always doing the side that my yarn on, like dropping it. I can do it, so I can do the other side and go back. I'll get it.
When you drop on this side, you'll not wrap it around.
Well, see, and that's what, they're trying to get this to your way, but it's a little bit. So this would normally be, I'm done. So then I would wrap
Then
it
if you
this
stop
way.
when you have one left here, you don't have to worry about it. You just start knitting the wool. Yeah.
If I'm dropping on the side.
If this is the way you choose to do, okay, there's one here, two there. I've done it this way a lot too. What happens is then we don't need to manually wrap this needle.
Eventually, yes.
Has to wrap, you don't need to have. So then it comes to else, you would push everybody down.
Okay, yeah.
Don't, on my video online, this is the way I stopped, because it was easier for people to not get caught on the corner.
Okay, okay. Cool. I just got,
You didn't go, I'm gonna guess you didn't go hard enough.
there we go. You were so right.
This is. All right, I was keeping everything to what we're doing now. Okay.
Oh, I got my stitches.
Okay, so finish knitting across. Alright, it sounds familiar.
Has she done the toe yet? No. But I just dropped a whole bunch of stitches and I'm leaving them and they pick my.
Yeah, I made the mistake of trying to do the heel where I should have just kept on moving.
And would have helped me a tremendous amount. I feel like this, that's a good idea to use white. Well, then you can see it exactly. It still not be very good.
Watch her way to know you say to the Do you have a solid color to use instead?
No, I thank you for saying that. When I have a variegated, my eyes, I don't have the dyslexia of doing that. So I'm like, oh, red, now I'm doing blue.
Okay.
Thank you. I have the variegated.
Is this a final you want?
Because I did on Thursday, I had that if I
She said something about that dowel. Remember what she said about the dowel?
This is the
way
to
dowel.
It's tighter.
This is a better way, yeah.
I think you would make a practice piece and set it out on the, and then you can, like, let's say it was, you're gonna like take an inch of that foot, and then you take an inch, and then you count how many stitches are in that inch, then you'll know how many you use.
This has been very.
Oh, it would be.
So your mind going again.
Okay, we'll do. We'll see what she does again. Okay, I'll take my notes.
Yeah.
So I don't know what was supposed to be doing now, because I can bring my bottle up.
So did you do?
Yeah. I did not. I finished half a heel and I said, heck, this is what the part that I'm worried about is coming up. So I need to pay close attention. Well, then I've got another chance. Yeah, I've got another chance, but the thing is, the close the heel is my.
Okay, I know, oh, what's what I got? No, sorry, the first one.
This is the problem here.
You know, the minivan and
Closing.
oh, you mean closing the toe?
Yeah.
So, it's the first, so, okay, so for that, so this was fun, but you can back up.
No.
So our first day was like, yeah, and then this transition.
With the, basically take this. And you're gonna get back side face. You kind of want to that first table next. You have that 30 years ago. Number, so 64. And I, so I always flip it.
Oh, right.
Put them on my there, yeah. And then I do my own.
Yeah, that's the big deal. This was my first sock I got made. This is after a week's worth of working. And so my husband's like, what the heck? Oh, okay. Yeah. My sister's husband is passing away. He's in hospice right now. I told her, oh, knit him socks. She's like, I mean, he didn't pass away. A set that looked the same. A pair that looked the same. You know what that was? But don't have your socks. Nobody will want socks for you.
I'm lifting another needle, that'll work. That makes the decrease in it, okay? One side.
Oh, no, yeah.
Just don't wait till he's in hospice. I know. It might be a little late then.
We're good. You're good?
Well, I mean, besides my views, but I know what they were.
Okay, so I skipped everything. I just caught up. Okay, so now she's gonna do the heel, correct? Or the toe.
Okay, so you made, okay.
I made a horrible heel.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so that,
My mom told me the longest. Okay, I like the cable cast.
and down here.
Where does this go? Does this have to be tighter?
If it's not, yeah, and actually, if it doesn't stay, they said yesterday, like, loosen it more, almost all the way, and then screw it.
Oh, okay. Mine always falls back up.
Yeah, you want to tighten it.
Loosen it and then tighten it.
Yeah, so it's like loosen it and then tighten it all the way again.
Or do whatever you get.
No, it doesn't have one of those, no, things, and I don't, you know, these are oil pulls.
They are or aren't?
They are.
Okay, we got it.
Do we keep those oiled always, or is it a once in a?
It's kind of like, you know, it's, you know, kind of whatever. Okay, if you think about it, but you don't,
Everything got oil is in there.
See mine? No, you just tighten it. If it gets, okay, then I need to take it off. Yes, right. We'll take the whole thing off. No, just take this one off all the way and try again.
now, if you look at your uniform, right, they're down and they're almost under the raised knees, so they're not doing it. You want to more, we can do all that. I should have left it.
No, don't worry about it. Just remember this one is like there we go. It just works. And see, I'm or it might have been before we did it. Did you put a head on it?
But that's okay. I'll
Guys, wrong way down. No, I was like, this one has the whatever that's called.
I love the way you taught me how to put this on. That's great. I didn't know that either. On my.
I say I need it all.
The thing is, my finger is not the same.
I mean, it is, and you don't do it. I never thought I would. When I first figured out this song, took like just like all classes, figuring out at home, and I'm like, but I knew how to hang the shit on that. I never did all this.
All right, it looks like everybody's kind of to the point where we move on in our discussions. All right. We're going to stop in the front. Now, to know if your foot is the right size, if you got it long enough, because I will tell you that each different kind of yarn you use, that changes how many rows you knit, okay? This is where the handy dandy stick comes in. You will take your weights off, put them in an obnoxious spot so you don't forget to put them back on, okay? And if you're using a stick, a ruler, whatever, you're just going to carefully place it in the heel pocket. I am not pushing on it. We do not shove it down. We are just going to kind of set it in the pocket. And then you're going to have to get down and see how close the top of the cylinder is to your line. Okay? If it's not to your line, knit more rounds, okay? If it is exactly at your line, you want to knit 1 or 2 more rounds, because with all the weight on there, when you take it off, that yarn is going to go back to its natural position, okay? Does that make sense to everybody?
Does that give it some give to fit your foot right and not be too big?
Correct. So if you do it right, measure right, and it takes the first couple is kind of a test, but if you're doing it right, that foot will always be the same no matter what yarn you use, okay? No matter if you have, different yarn, different tension. I can knit one at one tension and one at another, and they will be the same length by using the measuring stick, okay? So that's why I like to use this. Just set it all on there and do some eyeballing. Don't forget to put your weights back on. Otherwise, you have a problem.
I'm sorry, did you take all the weight off?
All the weights come off.
Okay, not just the heel weights, but
Nope, all the weights.
And the line on your ruler then, is that at the base of, or the top of the cylinder? Is that where you're eyeballing?
Yep, right at the top of the cylinder. And when it's right at the top of the cylinder, you have to knit a round or 2 to compensate for the fact it's going to shrink back a little. Okay, because the yarn is stretched out of shape. But that's part of the reason people use too much weight. They have super stretched the yarn. So the next day when they knit the second sock, the first socks had a little time to relax and go back into shape. They knit it, they put the 2 next to each other, and it's like, oh my God, that second one's just way too big. Well, it's not necessarily way too big. It just hasn't had the same amount of time to shrink back to its normal state. Okay, so by using this though, I've had, everything seems to match and come out right, and it fits the person's foot because I measured their foot. Okay, and if you can't measure their foot, you can have them do it with a piece of paper, and then they measure it, and you can then take your stick and measure from the one end down to the other and mark it. Okay, so you can still, but these measuring sticks are really, really accurate, okay? Once you learn how to use them. So at this point, I would be checking to make sure the length of my sock is correct, okay? So now we're moving on to do our toe. So we are going to do pretty much just like our heel. You are going to lift these needles up behind your halfway marks. And then you're going to finish knitting around. We will put our uptake spring back on. Now, some of you may have knit. If you did not, that's okay too. Because you just have to remember to knit the next sock, the second sock, the same way. Okay? And some people have narrow feet, and that's a nice way to have it pull in better, is to knit it. If you're knitting for someone with a super narrow foot, that is something you always want to do. But after you're done with your heel, the basic idea is to take that off and keep knitting. Okay, so we're in the front. I've set it up just like I would. And I'm going to do just like I did before. I lifted one needle and I am coming back across. And I am lifting one needle and coming back across. And I'm lifting the needle on the side. The yarn and the yarn carrier are on. Now my yarn is riding up a little, so I am going to start using my heel hold down. And when you're done lifting your needles up, I need you to stop because we want to talk about the rest of the toe.
Oh, it is. That's probably why, because.
I don't even know. I was messed up.
You lost it.
I just turned it off.
Mine did not be a function.
Well, it's amazing when you get that right.
Yes, so you know.
That's cool. A hot hole mess, and that's okay.
Oh, yes, it is. That's okay. Not that it's a hot hole mess. That's very funny.
We've got it. Yeah, we've got it.
Okay. Now I'm at the heel, so I have to get the man.
So you're gonna do the frame. You have to put your about in here. When your yarn carrier down in front, you're gonna lift the back half of the needles. So whatever your half is,
It's a 64, so 42.
you should have 32. So I don't know if this is needle number 1. Over there, that wasn't needle number 1. This was. So you might want to lift them and then count your needles. So I would lift this one to that one, all those ones, and then just you know press them.
I don't know.
Is this your thing down there?
Yes.
That's fine. Straight to press. You're
Do I move my carrier?
Yeah. So once you get to the toe,
Oh, yeah?
yeah, but that's all right.
Yeah, we just need to learn from her what she needs to teach us.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it is hard for amazing.
Yeah, because I should have 10 and I have 11.
Okay.
My last sheet.
I tried it. I didn't do it.
Okay, we're gonna make it 10.
She starts talking again.
I think it's a stress.
Darn it. But yeah, your time. Yeah, your time. I'm here until Sunday. Okay.
Okay, it looks like we got a lot of people to the same point. So we're going to talk about how to get a little more rounded look in your toes at the top. Most socks, if we just started pushing them down, you'd have like a box look and then a nice curve, okay? A lot of people call it rabbit ears, dog ears, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't look the greatest, okay? And tons of beginners get that look. And part of that is we just want you to knit a good heel, okay? So that's why a lot of people don't talk about how to get a little more rounded look to that part without the big box square. Okay, so what I do to help eliminate that is when I'm ready to push needles down to do my increasing, I push down 2 needles and knit across, push down 2 needles and knit across. So now what happens is everybody's like, okay, you just shorted your toe 2 rows. Well, in actuality, I'm only going to be shorting it 1 because when you Kitchener stitch, you are adding an extra row. Okay, so when we're Kitchener stitching, you are adding an extra row to your toe. So in actuality, you're losing 1 row. And I will tell you, 1 row is not going to change anything or make this sock look disgustingly awful or not fit a person. Okay. It is just, it's going to wrap around and be great. Now, I had you knit your toes on the front side, the same side as your heel was on. Okay. When you Kitchener stitch, your Kitchener stitch is going to be across the top of your toe. So my reasoning behind that is usually to force you to practice Kitchener stitching so it doesn't show. If you're one of those people who it just doesn't work, can't Kitchener stitch and make it look nice, okay? You can definitely shape your toe on the back side, okay? So you would park in the back and lift the needles up in the front. What I find a lot of people doing is as they lean over and ditz with their heel in the back or their toe, they end up accidentally pushing needles down, okay? So if you're going to do it on the back side, be very watchful of what's going on in the front also, all right? So when we get this down, we're just about finished. We're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel here. Some people have some pretty nice looking heels and toes. So I want you to keep going. And on the toe, we don't do any extra wrapping. We don't do anything. I take it right down to how it's supposed to be. And then stop at that point because I'll talk about taking it off the machine. Okay. So keep working on your toe.
When you push 2 down on each side.
Correct.
So if your toe was 10, you would still push 2 down, or would you stop before the 10 to start pushing the 2 down? Does that make sense?
Nope. Just push 2 down.
You would go to 10 and then push 2 down on each side. So it's really.
Yep. It's not as small as you think.
Could you tell me why mine got stuck halfway through here?
Are we stuck?
Yeah, that would be half the story. It's just stuck. I need to know this information later. Okay. Tell me why I'm stuck. I was going that direction.
Earlier, it was like pixelated down.
I know that I have that weight off because I need to not let that run all the way down, but let it go back on. Yeah. Oh, 2016, it's number 4. If you just work them just like that, all right, I'm gonna let that one go. Whoops, yeah, so maybe I still had so, yeah, because that's like a machine.
So if it gets stuck like that, tap it.
Just keep tapping it? Yeah. Okay.
This is good to know. I need that
Yep.
information.
Because it's so hard when you're at home, which is true. Like things happen here.
Yeah. So I do this. Right there. So now when okay. Yeah, I don't. I'm sorry. You'll have to talk to me like in a second. Right? Some people don't like it. Okay, so if I go like this and then I come back, you see what's happening here? Yes. With the yarn? Okay, so if it's bunched up like that, you're gonna drop a bunch of stitches. Right. Okay? And you don't want that. That's the purpose of this. It's an understatement. Going to. No, well, unfortunately, that's here. Take it over to the side and go under. So now when it was solid, see how I'm looking at it right here. Now so now if I have that on, you see how you don't. If I'm never in the orange color, it's the side that the yarn and the carrier are. Okay. Probably one more time. Now look at another one. Are you ready?
You're going to start my stick back. So now you're putting down. Okay, wait. You're doing it on the opposite side. The first two, she's doing two. Sorry.
So I lift one up and I'm going backwards. Is that what you're doing? Okay, continue to go backwards. Okay, until I get to here. Pass, go back in here, so everything is out of view. Okay, and then I
I don't remember which one.
watch what it's doing. It's grab that one time. Okay, so watch it. See how it goes. I have the flaps that. Now do I continue to do this? You're gonna do that.
Oh, thank you, sorry.
Oh, good.
Four. They're gone. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, my daughter does just north.
Okay.
Just north.
I think I'm good. I think I've did something. Again, I'm trying to do it like you, but I'm mixing my method and your method. But
You're doing the suicide.
one side.
That's okay. You weren't trying to drop stitches. That's why I have like.
Now you're just, no, I get you. But it's a little mix.
Oh. Okay, so this one's messed up. Yeah. There you go. Everybody doing okay?
No, I need to go step by step and I'm
I'm big feet.
Yeah, I've got heels.
Yeah,
I
I'm
can
gonna
do
need
them.
another one. I'm just not sure.
But I just need to step by step. So what are you doing?
Yeah. So I need this here to be up. This side. So it won't let that go on that.
Okay, so the first thing is your yarn carrier's here. Where's this?
Beats the hell out of you. You talk to me like I'm a sixth grader.
Okay. So it's over your knees.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
so now this is now you can because it goes under.
Alright, I'm gonna have to go around it. Okay. So now I go this direction. Correct.
So you, and the reason you know you lift something, you put your yarn out like this between them.
Okay.
And then Say it would adjust your keyboard or you can stay because then you know you lifted it, but if you look like you're narrow. This is gonna go. Okay. Okay, now you're gonna get back. Nope. Nope.
So,
So you lifted this. So you want your needle to raise up to the normal level. Okay. So now we're gonna lift. And now you're gonna knit back. So I'm gonna use needle forks. Yeah. Okay. So knit back.
So I think, yeah,
And you're gonna knit again. So now you can stop knitting anyway. You also don't want to get too far over the right. So when your yarn carrier shouldn't be about in the middle, but you want to make sure. Yeah. Okay, so that one is actually just knit.
oh,
So one hand will come down from the very end. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna because we'll put it down and down to be your beginning. So you're gonna grab the stick, bring it over. That person's well, it's just yes. It's not even. When you're there's and you're gonna divide it. We'll get you another one. You don't have three. I'll make sure. I'm sorry. Okay. So what you're gonna do? We are just there. I just move it over. So if you pull out three, do this one here. So if you like you don't necessarily do it. So say we're just gonna check in the needles so we can get this one finger in there. Mind you would just go over it. Okay? So you hand that one off. Okay, so now we need to lift. We haven't done that yet. Lift your next needle. Yep. Oh. So see how I'm not showing the right side. I know how to make buttons.
There you go. Now you gotta sew on those buttons though. I need to take a picture of this because I had this on wrong.
that's what I get for cheating.
Oh, that's okay. Where's your yarn? Let's just kind of get it over here. Over your thing. Okay? It sounds like there's plenty of. So before you do anything, so let's get your heel forks. Okay, so. I don't see the wall.
Just when she starts speaking, just click the buttons and so
Let's see, Friday, you know, for the work on the demonstration. Oh, yeah. I was gonna try Friday. I have to get to that class. My drive is 5 minutes. Springfield is 10. Are you? Yes. And
There we go.
I think your drive might have even been more hairy than mine. Yeah. Not tell my husband about any of it. So he's the one who said, I was watching the news. It looked pretty bad out there. It was kind of bad. So,
Are you liking this? Are we okay? The videos? Okay.
I don't like videos, but
Fair enough.
we're doing okay.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, like I said, we can intentionally misspell your name. You just let me know. I can get you out of it.
Okay, so if you want to pay attention here, we have our toe done. You finish it all the way down to your marks. Okay, now we have to take it off on waste yarn. So you're going to take your sock yarn and pull it long enough to do Kitchener stitching. So we're going to pull it out of here. And of course, it wraps itself around everything. We are now going to set that down inside. I'm now going to put my waste yarn in there. And my yarn carrier is on the right. I'm going to put I'm going to knit across the front part where you were knitting your toe, and then we are going to knit back. And I'm going to stop in the front. I am then going to push all these needles down by putting 2 rows of knitting with my waste yarn on the front. When you get to the corners, you know how sometimes when you Kitchener stitch, the corners are hard to see the stitch. it gives you a little more room there to see what you want to pick up and put in your Kitchener stitching. So once I push everybody down and I double check, make sure all my latches are open. You want to check and check one more time, because otherwise you're going to drop stitches. So I dropped a stitch and it's like panic, panic, panic. I dropped a stitch. Oh no. So all I take is a needle, one of my extra needles. I am going to go down between the fabric and the cylinder. I'm going to pick that stitch up. And I'm just going to latch it back up. And I put that back on there. Okay? You can pick up drop stitches. It's not super hard. Takes a little patience sometimes, but if you don't have a lot of weight hanging on there, that stitch isn't running. It's not going to go anywhere. It's going to stay right there where it's easy to pick it up. Okay? So now I'm just going to knit around. And I forgot I don't have any weight here. I dropped another stitch. But because we're doing a practice one, we're just going to let that go. I'll fix it when I'm done. I can fix it easily off the machine. So then when you're done putting waste yarn on, and everybody's like, how much waste yarn do I use? My motto was, if I'm going to get to it in a short amount of time, I just do 6-7 rounds. If it's going to sit around, I've always had cats. Cats like string. And they've been known to unravel my stuff. So if you've got cats and you're not going to get to it for a while, I like to do 10-12 rounds. So in case something happens, hopefully I catch it before Kitty gets it all unraveled. Okay, so then we're just going to take this and we are going to drop it off and kind of hang on to it. See how I kind of have this hung on to? Because otherwise, if you don't hang on to it, it's all going to go on the floor, weights and all, smash some toes. But you should have a complete sock done, hopefully with no holes. If not, remember it's a practice. So here's the top with my hung hem, and here's my heel, and here's my toe. And I just have to Kitchener stitch this part together. Okay, so I want everybody to take theirs off and take a look at your heels and toes. You see how I have a rounded toe? Because I push those 2 needles down and 2 needles down. I don't have that squared off, dog-eared looking piece there. Okay? All right, does anybody have any questions or anything they feel they need to talk about? No? Okay, well then we're done. And hopefully you have a sock. Wow. Oh, wow. You go down.
That's a beautiful song.
Oh, no.
That's okay. That was the easy part. The hard part was me getting the heels.
That's right.
Yep.
Just snip it and take it off.
Next break.
You can kind of see.
How I did. Thank you. Very good.
Okay.
Because the strap was a little lopsided.
Okay, everybody, one more thing on the heel directions. I have a hand knit piece. Like this hasn't been the greatest for me to have time to do some of my stuff. So I have it, it's hand knit, or handwritten. You are welcome to take a photo of it. We have the corrections. We'll send it out.
You're gonna down the opposite of your down. Sure, they don't look bad at all. For this now standing on this otherwise, very good. Thank you. My total
Oh, you're done recording?
Yeah, I'm gonna stop it anyway. It's fine.
Okay, I just want to look at the toes and heels.